It started with curiosity, but what she discovered would change her life forever. Every Friday evening, just before the clock struck 5, Daniel, the quiet janitor of Crestwell Industries, would put away his mop, glance nervously at the wall clock, and disappear. No goodbyes, no chatter. Just gone. It wasn't unusual for employees to leave early before the weekend, but for Daniel, it was different. He didn't clock out properly, never asked for permission, and always seemed haunted. Evelyn Harper, the CEO, had noticed. She wasn't the kind of boss who micromanaged, but something about Daniel caught her attention. Maybe it was his politeness, or the way he worked tirelessly when no one was watching. Or maybe it was the sadness in his eyes that spoke of a life much heavier than his worn-out uniform suggested. It started one late Thursday evening, as Evelyn stood by the glass walls of her top-floor office overlooking the glowing city. She saw Daniel below, mopping the marble lobby floor under the golden lights. Every motion looked rehearsed, like a man trying to clean not just a building, but the stains of his own past. The next day, Friday, Evelyn decided to follow him. She waited until 4:45 p.m., pretending to review reports. When Daniel slipped out, she grabbed her coat and keys, keeping her distance as she trailed his old pickup truck through the winding streets. He drove past the busy downtown, through quiet suburbs, and into a worn-out part of the city where buildings leaned tiredly against one another. Finally, he parked near an old brick house with peeling paint. Evelyn parked a few houses down, watching as Daniel got out carrying a small box of pastries. He entered the house quietly, almost like he didn't want to disturb anyone. A few minutes later, through the window, Evelyn saw him kneel beside a hospital bed. There was a little girl, no more than 10 years old, connected to tubes and machines, her small face pale but smiling the moment Daniel entered. He kissed her forehead gently, then pulled out a small teddy bear from his janitor bag. The girl's eyes sparkled. Evelyn's heart tightened. She stayed there, watching from her car, as Daniel read to the girl from a storybook, his tired voice soft and full of love. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. The image of Daniel's smile, so different from the quiet, guarded one she saw at work, wouldn't leave her mind. The next Monday, Evelyn called in the HR manager and quietly asked about Daniel. The report was brief: Daniel Hughes, 42, widowed, single father. His wife, Anna, had died 3 years earlier in a car accident. His daughter, Lily, had been severely injured and required expensive medical care. Daniel had refused charity, taking night jobs to cover her treatment. Evelyn sat in silence, realizing the truth: he wasn't leaving early to avoid work. He was leaving early to save his daughter's life. She could have stopped there. But something inside her said this story wasn't finished. The following Friday, she went again. This time, she walked up to the door and knocked. Daniel froze when he saw her. His hands trembled slightly. "Ms. Harper? What are you doing here?" Evelyn smiled softly. "You can call me Evelyn. Anne. I think I owe you an apology. I followed you last week. I shouldn't have, but now that I'm here, I'm glad I did." Lily peeked from the bed, her bright eyes curious. "Daddy, who's she?" Daniel hesitated, but Evelyn stepped closer. "Hi, Lily. I work with your dad. He talks a lot about how brave you are." Lily giggled. "He does?" Daniel exhaled, looking both embarrassed and proud. Evelyn set down a basket of fruit and books beside the bed. "I brought some things for you. I hope that's okay." For the next few hours, Evelyn stayed. They read together, laughed, and listened to Lily's favorite songs. When Evelyn left that night, Daniel followed her outside, his eyes wet. "I don't know how to thank you," he whispered. "You didn't have to come." Evelyn looked at him firmly. "You've given more to this company than most people ever will. You just never asked for anything in return." The next week, Evelyn made a quiet decision. She called the board, proposed a new company fund for employees facing personal crises, and named it the Lily Fund. When Daniel found out, he broke down. For the first time in years, he cried without hiding. As months passed, Lily's condition improved. With proper treatment and support, she began to walk again. Daniel returned to work full of gratitude and renewed purpose. And every Friday, instead of sneaking out, he left with a smile, no longer hiding, but heading home to a daughter who now had a future. On Lily's 11th birthday, Evelyn and several employees visited their small home. Lily ran to her, hugging her tightly. "Daddy says you're his angel," she whispered. Evelyn knelt beside her, smiling. "No, sweetheart. Your daddy is the angel. I just helped his wings heal." That night, as Evelyn drove back, she realized how often people hide their pain behind quiet routines, how many Daniels walked unseen through hallways, carrying burdens no one noticed. She made a promise that day to always see the people no one else sees, and somewhere deep in her heart, she understood that sometimes, the smallest act of compassion could rewrite someone's entire story, because sometimes, it isn't about being the CEO who runs a company, it's about being the human who saves a soul.